But things started to amp up when we slept the 2 nights that we did. This house was so badly haunted that I never moved into it. We slept 2 nights there. That was it. The first night that we spent there, I brought blow-up mattresses for the kids to sleep on. My daughter brought a friend for a sleepover, and it was on a school night too, but the parents were okay with it. So she brought her friend over, and about 3 o'clock in the morning, the girls woke me up, and the girl wanted to go home. My daughter's guest wanted to go home. Now, what 13-year-old do you know that at a sleepover is going to want to go home? Mm-hmm. So my daughter mentioned to me that apparently the friend had gone into the kitchen to get some cookies. And when she came back out, something spooked her that she didn't even bring the cookies. She left them in the kitchen and came out into the hallway and got my daughter. And then she wouldn't even go in the bathroom without my daughter coming along with her. So something really, really spooked her. And I ended up having to, call her parents and let her talk to her parents. And they convinced her to stay with us. And so she did. She ended up staying until morning. She didn't sleep at all, but she stayed until morning. I dropped him off the next day at school. The next time we slept over, a couple of days passed, and the kids are like, when are we going to sleep over? When are we going to sleep over? So I'm like, okay, we'll go ahead and do it again. This time it was just me with my children and our dog. And my dog would not go into that house. She balked so hard that her collar came over her head. She was a little schnauzer, a little black schnauzer. And so I let her, I hooked her up in the front yard to let her run around in the yard for a little while, thinking maybe she had to go to the bathroom. And then I went to get her again, and she was squirming. I had to carry her inside of the house. She darted around for a while, I guess looking for an exit, now that I know, because my children were seeing things in the house before I did. And of course, they weren't telling me. And there was an incident in the house that occurred downstairs with my children. The dog was in the room, and she almost dug a hole in the drywall next to the door to get out when that happened. When she came up with me, I didn't know that had happened. She's trembling in the doorway, and I thought she was cold. So I wrapped her up in a towel, and she wouldn't take her eyes off of me, the rest of the evening. My son took a bath that night. He put on his pajamas. He had a little short sleeve shirt and some Bob the Builder or whoever, Teletubbies or something, whatever it was at the time that it was his favorite. And they went and laid down in bed. And I was looking around the house, and I'm like, everything is half started. I want to finish something and have it done. So the master bedroom bathroom was small, and I decided I could paint the ceiling and the walls and be done with it in a couple of hours. So I did. Around 11 o'clock, I go to the kitchen to clean up my paintbrushes. And as I'm leaving the kitchen, on the right hand side, there's a wrought iron railing that prevents you from falling into the descending stairs off of the foyer. And it was also where the young man had hung himself from. And as I'm standing there, I see this horrific thing coming up from the lower level, goes across the double entry doors and up the stairs in front of me, and shoots down the hallway towards the master bedroom. And I was frozen. I'm like, what on earth is that? And I mean, it had a narrowing to its face, had large openings on its nose, like a horse nose, like Nary's. It almost took the whole end of its face. It had ears on it like a rabbit, but they were on each side of its head, like what we call here the FTD man, where they're turned, and they were turned backwards and grazing over this thing's shoulders. And it was up on its haunches. It had like a large squirrel bushy tail, but it was up on its haunches. I am 5'9". When it came to the top of the stairs, it was a little bit shorter than me, maybe like 5'6" or 5'7". And then it shot down the hallway. And again, I'm trying to rationalize. I'm like, that is the most horrific thing I've ever seen. It was brown, dull colored. The skin was kind of, sunken in over, bone looking. And I'm like, again, rationalizing it. I had been painting. There were fumes. maybe my blood sugar's low, maybe a motorcycle or a bicycle went underneath a streetlight, because I didn't have all of the dressings on the windows yet. So to make that kind of a reflection, but yet it would be impossible for it to do that. So I'm kind of speeding up things because there's so much to tell, but I want to make sure that we have enough time to get it into the time frame. So all of a sudden, morning comes, and I said to my daughter, I said, how did you sleep last night? And she said, I didn't. She said, I felt like something was standing in the doorway staring at us all night long. And my son, when I woke him up, he had bite marks on his legs. He had bite marks on both legs, and they looked like dog bite marks, but they were smaller. The shape of the mouth was smaller than like my dog would have done. So I remember asking him, I said, Austin, what happened? You've got bite marks. He had one on each thigh area, one towards the back, one on the calf, and then one on the other leg. And he's touching them. He's 7 years old. He's touching them. He's like, I don't know. I'm like, they're purple. You could see the teeth. And I'm like, I mean, anybody to have them made purple like that, you would feel that if it happened to you. And and he's like, he's touching him. He's like, I don't know. Well, of course, that weirded me out. I took the kids, I left. I didn't go back probably for 5 or 6 days. Then I'm at work, and kind of when you step away from something, you kind of start to rationalize, and you make it like you're silly, like, oh no, maybe he had been playing with his dinosaur and it's a delayed bruise or something like that. And I, so I went ahead and I went back, and I had workers I had 4 different workers. 3 of them never came back. And so I ended up having to go back to the house to pull in an air conditioner. So I asked my next door neighbor, Ellen, I said, I have to go back, would you mind coming with me? I have an air conditioner that I have to pull in. I'm going to need some help. She agreed to go. I was telling her about what I saw with the young man in the house earlier that day. And I said, do you believe in ghosts? And she said, oh yeah, I believe in ghosts. And I said, well, I'm pretty sure that there's a ghost in this house. If you don't feel comfortable, you don't want to go in with me, I totally understand. I'm grateful that you're going with me to the place. I can get the lady's husband across the street maybe to come in with me and take the air conditioning in. And she says, oh, no, I'm fine. She says, I'll go in with you. So we arrived, and now this time I'm having trouble with the key. I almost broke the key off trying to get it out of the lock. It was so stuck in there. But I had the door open. So Ellen walked in, she's standing in the foyer, and she makes a joke. And she says, you're not going to leave me here and let the boogeyman get me, are you? And I'm like, I ignored her comment, and we went ahead, we went in, she helped me pull in the air conditioner. And all of a sudden I hear this sound coming up behind us. It was kind of like a didgeridoo sound, like that wah wah, but it was static also. And there was kind of like this foggy wall kind of forming. And I didn't say anything about it because I thought I was the only one seeing it and hearing it. And all of a sudden Ellen says to me, she says, what's that noise? I said, well, you remember I told you that there was a ghost in the house. I said, we'll just finish up and we're going to go ahead. Let's just go ahead and go. So she still had the horse heads in her hand, and she starts screaming. She says, oh my, and she drops the horse hands down on the kitchen counter, and she's, what is it? What is it? A spider bite? She's pulling her shirt around. She says, it's burning, it's burning me really, really bad. And I lifted up the back of her shirt, and there was a 4-inch claw mark diagonal between her shoulder blades. And it was just welting and beating blood. And being a nurse, that welting response is one of the first responses. It looked like a cat scratch, one single cat scratch, and it was beating blood. And even if you pick off a scab, you don't get that welting thing to happen again. So it was a fresh scratch. And I'm like, Ellen, what did you do? Did you maybe, again, there's still no furniture in the house. Did you maybe scratch yourself on the car door getting out? You've got a scratch mark on your back, and it was diagonal, and it was partially underneath her bra strap. And she starts screaming again that it got her again. And then she ended up with a claw mark on her stomach, below her belly button as well. And we ended up getting out of there. I told her to leave. I started praying out loud. I was calling in every source that I could think of, Jesus, God, Mother Mary, Archangel Michael. I was calling on anybody that would listen.
If you liked this episode, please do subscribe for weekly, passionate, inspirational interviews.